Hong Kong immigration officials have barred a former Philippine minister from entering the city. Former Foreign Secretary Albert del Rosario was held and questioned at the Hong Kong airport for several hours before ultimately being denied entry and boarding a plane back to Manila.
Mr. del Rosario is known to be a vocal critic of Chinese President Xi Jinping, and he's not the only Filipino official that's been barred from Hong Kong.
Last month, former Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales, another critic of President Xi, was stopped at the Hong Kong airport for several hours before returning to the Philippines.
This comes as the Philippines deals with public outrage over the sinking of a Filipino fishing boat by a Chinese vessel earlier this month. The supposed collision happened in an area of the South China Sea claimed by both countries.
Mr. del Rosario and Mrs. Morales have both actively lobbied against China's activities in the disputed waters, as Buena Bernal explains.
Well, we do not know for certain as to why former Philippine Foreign Minister Albert del Rosario was held at the Hong Kong International Airport. Mr. del Rosario says he is a holder of a diplomatic passport and his being held is against the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, an international treaty which is the basis for diplomatic immunity. We also know that Mr. del Rosario, along with former Philippine Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales, filed last March an information before the International Criminal Court alleging that Chinese President Xi Jinping, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, and other Chinese officials are accountable for crimes against humanity over what they call the lasting environmental damage caused by the economic giant's militarization in the South China Sea. In behalf of Filipino fishermen dependent on the West Philippine Sea, which is how the Philippines calls its South China Sea claim, Mr. del Rosario and Mrs. Morales urged the International Criminal Court to investigate the matter. The two former high-ranking Philippine officials were part of the team behind the suit of the Philippines against China before the Permanent Court of Arbitration, which ruled in 2016 largely in favor of the Philippines' South China Sea claim. That ruling also rejected or invalidated China's 9-line claim, but Beijing later on rejected that ruling.